Hey everybody, Bryan Zane here. Happy Wrestlemania! My voice is shot and I'm very tired. I'm here at the hotel room. It is Monday morning, just a couple hours before I leave for the airport. Would have had this shot Sunday night after Wrestlemania, but then New Jersey Transit happened. Myself and all my friends were in line in the rain outside MetLife waiting for trains to get back to Secaucus, which would then take us back into Manhattan. And so needless to say, after getting back into our room at like 4 o'clock in the morning, didn't really feel up to shooting anymore. And also now in the morning, most of the people who could actually speak on the show with me have gone. They're already at the airport. So I'm going to be doing this one solo today, as opposed to what I originally envisioned. But there we go. WrestleMania was a wild and woolly weekend. I mean, there's so much to talk about what happened. Not only all the indie stuff that happened over the weekend, but the madness of how good NXT was, which I talked about with Felix earlier. The Hall of Fame ceremony with the crazy fan for some reason attacking Bret Hart. Why would you do something like that? Why would you go into an arena full of wrestlers who admire and respect that man, Bret Hart, and trying to attack a 61-year-old stroke survivor? That makes no sense to me, and I think he got what was coming to him, and I hope he is prosecuted for what happened. And then, of course, there's WrestleMania itself. The 8-hour extravaganza. I was there alongside R. Felix Finch, Levi Shapiro, and Jay Biggs. We had a great time. I think it was a really great experience, except for that whole part at the end trying to get a ride back to New York. Maybe next year in Tampa it won't be as stressful because not everything will be so spread out. Opening matches for the Cruiserweight Championship as Buddy Murphy, old Bud Murph, defends against Tony Nese, the premier athlete. This is the first match of the kickoff show. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a whole lot of specific notes about many matches because I was just trying to watch the action, and I didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to take notes on my phone. So a lot of the action, a lot of the retelling is going to be kind of stripped down, or I'll just give you the basic gist of what happened. This match had a lot of exciting stuff. I love, when I do see Buddy Murphy, which admittedly is not often, I'm always impressed with his work at his time as champion. His defenses he's had on pay-per-view have always been great, and this one to me was no different. Ultimately, Tony Nese wins and is the new Cruiserweight champion, and he pretty much, I forget how long the reign was, but I know Buddy won the belt last year at Super Showdown in Australia. So, I think it was the right call. I think it's time for the belt to change hands. It's been on Buddy for quite a while. I don't think Buddy's gonna hurt by losing it, and I think that Tony can only gain from being champion. I give this one 2.5 stars out of 4. Up next is the Women's Battle Royal. Not much to say specifically about this match. Most of the women get their spots in. Cool to see Candice LeRae were performing at WrestleMania in that Battle Royal, and Nikki Cross being crazy Nikki Cross. Asuka looked very strong. So did the Riot Squad. The Riot Squad spent a lot of time trying to eliminate people, and although I will say a lot of their attacks in the match itself kind of looked sloppy. There was some rushing, it felt like, so that kind of took me out of it. Ultimately, Sarah Logan appears to be the last woman standing, so that would have been that was kind of very surprising that she would win the thing. So I was like, okay, I'm game. Give the spot to somebody new. Try something different. But what happens is Carmella gets back in the ring. Apparently she was never eliminated. She ends up taking Sarah Logan out, and now Carmella is the winner. And so my 2K19 predictions got that one right, oddly enough. To me, the finish felt very similar to last year's Women's Battle Royal finish, where Bayley throws out Sasha. She thinks she wins. Naomi pops up, and then she takes out Bayley. So it's very similar, just different players in this line. So I'm going to give this one 1 star out of 4. Cool to see Carmella win, but Battle Royals are typically hard to rank, because they're just so chaotic, and it boils down to maybe 1 or 2 spots. Raw tag titles on the line as the Revival defend against Curt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, who aren't even wearing matching gear. I was shocked that you had Curt Hawkins wearing the New York Jets inspired gear because they were in the Meadowlands, but Zack Ryder not wearing Giants colors. I didn't get that. Anyway, this is actually a really good match, much better than I thought it would be. The action between these 4 guys was actually really good. Again, Dash, I popped last week for his Tornado DDT against Aleister Black and Ricochet, and he did the same thing again. and I love it. Really solid matchup. Ultimately, Zack's on the outside, Curt's knocked out supposedly, and he plays possum, quick roll up, and he wins the match. Not only does Curt break his unbeaten streak, he and Zack are the Raw Tag Team Champions. So Zack gets his like one win a year at WrestleMania, and he wins the title. And it was really cool, feel good moment for these guys who grew up as friends and trained together. And, winning the tag titles here, that is a recurring theme, you might find out. And it was just really cool to see that happen. I mean, I think people might complain because the Revival have not been booked very strong to begin with. And for them to lose to a team that up until now had lost all the time, so why are they even getting this tag title match? It might raise some people's dander. But, I still think it was a feel-good moment, and it was just, it was a good match. So I had no complaints. I give it 2.5 stars out of 4. Your final match for the kickoff is the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Michael Che and Colin Jost, of course, from SNL, are the two. One of the big stories about this match is their involvement. They immediately run out of there in their goofy get-ups as the action actually goes on. Braun's taken out on a post, so he's actually kind of gone for a while. But he gets back in. We see a very impressive but scary spot near the end where Harper, who's wearing the tank top with the jeans again, he's now dressed like a bludgeon bro. He's got, I think it was Kalisto, in a suplex position on the apron. They do it once because they wait for Braun's cue, but it doesn't happen, so he puts him back down. Then he picks him up again. Braun kicks Harper, and they all come tumbling down. It was such a scary looking spot, but it looked really cool for what it was. Eventually, Che and Jost and Braun are the final 3 people, as seemingly was always destined to be. But Braun gets his. He pops Michael Che in the mouth, tosses Colin Jost to the outside on a whole bunch of waiting wrestlers who truly were there for like 3 minutes. It felt like between when they were eliminated, they were just like standing there waiting for, the spot to happen. What were they doing that whole time? Braun wins the trophy. Some might argue he probably should have won it 2 years ago in Orlando. But it's cool to see him win here. It's a nice win for him after, all he's been through for the last year or so. But I give that match 1.5 stars out of 4. Again, Battle Royals are hard to rate highly because of what's all going on. There's no real story for the most part. But this was good. I think it was, it was a competently performed Battle Royal. I think the right person won. I have no complaints about Colin and Michael's involvement. It was silly. They didn't do anything. It's not like any wrestler to put them over. So, I think it's win-win. The show officially opens with Alexa Bliss, the host of WrestleMania, making an address. She pulls a Thanos and snaps her fingers, but instead of half the world disappearing, it's Hulk Hogan. He makes a surprise appearance to open the show after inducting Brutai into the Hall of Fame the night before. So he does a little spiel, they pose. All of a sudden out comes Paul Heyman with his angry power walk, and he says, if Brock Lesnar's not the main event, then we're getting this done right now, Skippy. So it is the Universal Championship to open the show at WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar is a curtain jerker. Who would have ever guessed? The match actually begins unofficially when Brock is beating down Seth on the outside. He's beaten to the point where it's a giant welts all over Seth's back. It looks really gross. Finally, get back into the ring, and Lesnar has a hot start, but after a little ref skirmish, after a little ref mini fall, Rollins with Dick Punch City, not quite Dick Kick City, but a big old low blow. That is his big weak spot. So Rollins hits 3 consecutive stomps, and he wins. He wins the Universal Championship in the opening match that lasted maybe a minute officially against Brock Lesnar. Wow, what a way to kick things off. The match itself, the story they told was good. The match itself, from bell to bell, wasn't that impressive, but just the shock value of, wow, this match that begins in kind of a squash thing. Rollins wins in really quick fashion, Goldberg won this quickly against Lesnar and no one else. So it's crazy to put Seth Rollins in that same kind of category. It's the shock of him winning the belt, after Lesnar held it for so long. So it was great. It was a cool moment. Everyone's happy. Brock can do whatever now. Please don't put the title on him ever again. Let's just keep it on a full-timer in Seth Rollins. And please, pretty please, don't get hurt. Your next match is AJ Styles versus Randy Orton. And this match could best be described as a tale of the fans versus the lights. This match, honestly, I felt bad because Styles and Orton had a pretty good match here, but it was impossible for people to really get absorbed and pay attention to it in the live crowd because there were all these issues of the lights at the top of the set beaming down into the fans' faces, and ours included. And so all you can really do is try and look above them and try and look at the monitor. but not everyone, and people below us weren't so lucky to do that. I was in a lucky position, but a lot of turn the lights off chants and stuff. It was just like, it was overriding and distracting people from what was a pretty good match. I went back and I watched it after the fact, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's not an amazing matchup, but between two very competent, very proficient wrestlers, I think their styles worked well together. So I was pleased with how this match went down. Styles kick out of the RKO, which like no one's done. It's the most protected finisher I feel in all of wrestling right now. If I'm wrong, as of recently, who's kicked out of it, please correct me. I know you will. But then eventually Styles hits a phenomenal forearm off the ropes. That puts AJ's record up to 3-1 after losing the first Mania match he had in Dallas against Jericho. He's won his last 3 straight. I give this one 2.5 stars. It was an above average match. Probably, it was a match that could have been on Smackdown as a main event, which it has been, but this was still a good match. Not a barn burner, nothing really like amazing or noteworthy about it. It was just a good match. Not sure it should have been on WrestleMania though. Smackdown Tag Title Fatal 4-Way match as the Usos defend against Nakamura, The Bar, and Ricochet. So now Ricochet and Aleister Black having their 3rd straight tag team title match in a week. Wow, what luck for these guys. Great spot near the opening where Cesaro's got Ricochet in the giant swing forever as Sheamus starts doing the chest clubs to like 3 or 4 different guys in a row. It was just such a funny spot. Ricochet does Ricochet things during this matchup. At one point he breaks up a pinfall with a beautiful shooting star press. The match ends when the Usos hit a double splash onto Sheamus for the win. They retain the tag team titles. I give this one 3 stars out of 4. This was, again, I'm sorry I'm not doing a very good job kind of explaining some of the big spots, but I think it is one of the better matches to watch on the show if you just like the athleticism and the physicality of everyone. I think like all 8 of these guys are kind of like the perfect blend of like, here's some strong style stuff, here's just like big hits, here's flying, here's athleticism, here's agility. All those guys I think really carry that banner extremely well. And when you look at all 8 of these guys kind of make up these fundamental building blocks of SmackDown right now. And so I'm glad they got, even though it was a lately booked match, I'm glad they got a chance to shine at WrestleMania. We get our Hall of Fame recap. Then it's the Falls Count Anywhere match as Shane McMahon takes on The Miz. Shane doing some more stuff with ring-announcer Greg Hamilton over how much gusto is needed to properly announce the best in the world, Shane McMahon. Lots of cowardice from Shane early on. He's running from The Miz. It's very similar to kind of how he was booked as a heel many moons ago. I forgot almost how Shane was as a heel. He's very effective at it as well. At one point, he and Miz are fighting. He gets Miz on the announce table, teases doing the elbow drop, but then Mr. Miz, who's sitting up front row, who got accosted by Shane earlier, he hops the railing, and he's like, no, don't do it. And so Shane challenges Mr. Miz to get in the ring. Mr. Miz puts up them dukes, and Shane takes him down. Shane knocks him out and over the barricade, checks on his dad, and the fight resumes. They go over to the crowd area. They go into the scaffolding area where the tech region is and the hard cam and all that stuff. They fight their way up to the very top. Big old superplex off the top of the scaffolding by The Miz after Shane begs and pleads for mercy. But in the crash, Shane lands, his arm is on top of The Miz, so the referee counts the 3, and after this big valiant effort by The Miz, Shane wins anyway. Lol. What a troll finish. But it was still a finish that's like, oh man, like it was a great part of the story. And I think the match was really good. I give it 3 stars out of 4. Babyface Miz in this role, I think, is doing phenomenally, and I think that Shane McMahon as a heel is something I didn't think I want to see again, but it works so well. I just don't understand why they're not. I mean, it doesn't really play into the story, I guess, which is why. But like, they've made no mention of the fact that Shane is an authority figure on the show. Like he hasn't done anything to really affect anything else right now on the show. So I guess they're downplaying that, but yeah, it was a really entertaining match. I think it played both their strengths really well. 4-way match for the women's tag titles as Sasha Banks and Bayley defend against Nia Jax and Tamina, the IIconics, and Beth Phoenix and Natalya. Beth, of course, is her first WrestleMania in several years since coming back from retirement. This match was very quick-paced for the bulk of it. Natalya looks really strong in this matchup. She hits a heart attack as well as a double sharpshooter in this matchup. At one point, Nia and Tamina tease a double splash, but Nia gets knocked off the the top turnbuckle. I thought it would have been crazy to see her try and do this splash. I don't think she's done one of those before. I know she's done like a top rope Samoan drop, but I'd love to see her try a splash. That'd be amazing. Ultimately, Beth hits Bayley with a glam slam. The IIconics get Beth out and sneakily win the match. And so they're the new women's tag team champions. You know, I've heard differing reports on this. You know, from my perspective, sitting in the crowd, pretty much everyone in the crowd loved it. They cheered wildly for the IIconics winning because I think it's, again, a feel-good moment. Like I mentioned on Smackdown, Who Wore It Better a week or two ago. Two best friends from high school coming up together. It's a very similar story arc to that of Hawkins and Ryder. You know, two girls who came up together, had a dream, they got into NXT together, they made the main roster together, and in their first WrestleMania, they win the tag team championships, and are the second ones in the title's history. So it's very cool, very heartwarming story. You can see the emotion in their faces of how much it means to them. You know, but people said, oh, maybe they didn't react that loudly for them on broadcast, didn't come across that way. But from my vantage point, I can tell you, the people of New Jersey, the people of MetLife Stadium really enjoyed this finish. I gave it 2.5 stars. I think the action was really well paced. Nothing really stuck out to me in terms of bad stuff happening in the match. There was like one botched Samoan drop thing from Nia Jax, but beyond that, I think it was a very entertaining match. The IIconics winning was fun as well. Up next, Bryan defends the WWE Championship against Kofi Kingston. When they were doing the live announcements, I feared for my life for just a split second that they had one named Kofi Kingston, because the way he was announced, it was like, Kofi Kingston. Oh my God. Like now, years after you remove the Jamaica connection with Kofi, you're going to remove his last name before he wins the championship? What the hell? But no, he has the full name now. This is a great match. Again, I'm not going to give you a blow-by-blow account. It was just very entertaining. Great. Again, the styles between these two meshed so well as two lightweights, two guys who are known for their strikes and their agility, just working their asses off in this matchup. So much fun, so much emotion. At one point, Rowan gets involved, but Xavier and Big E take him out with the up, up, down, down. And so it's just so the fans are into everything that happens here. It's electric when Kofi does something well, and the fans boo vociferously when Bryan does something naughty. Ultimately, Kofi wins with the Trouble in Paradise, clean as a whistle. No real shenanigans happen, and Kofi Kingston is the new champion. And oh my God, what a moment! Like, you know, Big E and Xavier are ecstatic. They're hugging him and everything. They reveal the new championship, which is the old championship, and seeing the emotion on Xavier's face as he unveils it was so cool. They get in the ring. Kofi's sons are in the ring celebrating. I nearly lost it right there. Probably one of the most, I use this word a lot in my reviews, but a very cathartic feeling. Everyone felt so relieved that Kofi won, and finally, they pulled the trigger. They corrected their mistake they made at WrestleMania 19, and they put the championship on Kofi Kingston. He is the first WWE champion in the company's history, not world champion, that without an asterisk associated with it. Because for a long time, people have been debating whether The Rock is the first black champion, but because he is of mixed race, then people put the asterisk next to it. But now there's no debating, and it's just so cool. After 56 years, they finally have, Kofi Kingston's the champion. It's just such a cool moment, and seeing the love on social media and seeing how people are responding to this, how people in the black community are responding to Kofi winning, the feeling of joy and hope is really inspiring, and I think it was really cool. And of course, it spawned this T-shirt, and the only reason I'm wearing this is because it was, my clothes got soaked the night before in the rain, waiting for the train, and so this is the last dry shirt I have. So, but hey, no shame, because I think it's a cool shirt. It's fun to commemorate this moment. I love the match. I love the significance. I love the emotion. This match for me, 3.5 stars out of 4. It really should have just ended right there. You can almost not ask for a better ending to WrestleMania than that. But we still have a long way to go. We then go to the U.S. title match as Samoa Joe defends against Rey Mysterio, and this one's pretty short. In under a minute, it's over and done with. Rey gets maybe 1 or 2 moves in. Joe catches him in the clutch. Rey passes out, and Samoa Joe retains in a match that, really didn't have a whole lot of heat to it or a whole lot of build, and really was the one I had the least expectations for going into it. and it ends the way it does. Apparently the reason it was so short is because Rey is injured, and so that's why he couldn't do much in the ring. I give it a half star out of 4. Not much of a match. I will say it is significant for a couple of reasons though, because Samoa Joe has missed the last couple of Manias due to injury, so for him to be healthy enough to compete on this night was very a big deal, very significant for him. Also for him to beat Rey Mysterio, this living legend, in such a decisive manner, albeit disappointing from a fan perspective, is great for his great feather in his cap. So yeah, good for him career-wise, but as a match, nothing to write home about. He says he's more dangerous than leukemia, but can Drew McIntyre topple the big dog Roman Reigns in Roman's first singles match back since his leukemia went into remission? We will see. Drew gets the fancy WrestleMania entrance this time around. He comes out with the band of bagpipe players accompanying him, kind of like TakeOver a couple of years ago. And Roman comes out and gets booed. Are you kidding me? The leukemia survivor getting booed by the majority of the fans in MetLife? That was... Ooh, I was mad about that. I couldn't believe that, people. That was very disappointing. I went into this hoping for a real big knockdown, drag-out slugfest, and there was a bit of that. There was a bit of a knocky-draggy element, but it wasn't... There was nothing exciting about this match to me. It felt like this match could have gone on a main event on Raw. This match did not need to be at WrestleMania. Obviously, you gotta have Roman Reigns at WrestleMania because he is one of your biggest stars. I get that. I just wish this match were, I don't know, I think it was a proper amount of time. It just, to me, it wasn't a match that really got off the ground or really got into a second or third gear. It just felt like, you know, I don't know how to describe this match. It just wasn't a bad match. It just wasn't a great match. I give it 2 stars out of 4, but like right in the middle. I think it was just a match. Again, it was a decent match. Don't think it belonged on WrestleMania. It's time for Elias's musical performance, and he plays alongside 2 versions of himself that are pre-recorded on the screen. So it's drums and piano and live Elias on guitar. All 3 versions of himself play together. I thought that was very entertaining. Elias gets more of a promo, and then we get this weird like throwback footage of, you know, Babe Ruth of the Yankees calling a shot and all that stuff. At first, with the spooky grainy stuff, for a split second I thought it was Bray Wyatt coming back, but no, it's John Cena. But not just any John Cena, it's Thugonomics John Cena, Doctor of Thugonomics, from when he, you know, first won the U.S. title, you know, back in, you know, 2004, WrestleMania 20. It's funny because I think it actually got spoiled for me that Cena was going to come back as this, because earlier in the day I was looking around, I forget whose entrance it was I saw, but on the side graphics on the fronts of the upper tiers, for a split second I saw like some Chain Gang logo emblems with the chains and everything. I'm like, well, this doesn't match. Like, what's this old John Cena graphic doing? And then it was gone. So now that I think about it, I think it might have been for Beth Phoenix, actually. It might have been during that, but that threw me for a loop. And so when that happened, like, oh, that explains it. John Cena comes back with a throwback gimmick. He looks so much younger by putting a hat on and keeping the hat on. But he cuts some rhymes on Elias. He even trashes his own movies in the process. He hits Elias with an FU, not an AA, in his own words, to end the segment, and there you go. I think it was entertaining. If Elias wasn't going to have a match for the 2nd year in a row at WrestleMania, he might as well, you know, get a cool moment where he gets a moment to shine and kind of do it, kind of rekindling what happened last Mania with John Cena. There's a different spin on it. Seeing Cena do the whole throwback thing was very entertaining. The crowd was like super into it, and I'm not saying he should have kept that gimmick forever, but it certainly, I think, would have been more entertaining than a lot of the stuff we had in the mid-2000s once he got the big super push. Up next, it's no holds barred, baby. Triple H versus Batista. This was a match, God, kind of a comedy of errors going on in this match throughout. Starting with the intro, Batista has the motorcade, you know, helping him out on stage. And then afterward, the intro goes super long because the cars are still like trying to back up into their little spot on the side where the big screen is. And then it's like, did no one teach these guys to parallel park? Is there a valet among any of them? They have the biggest time struggling with these cars. It's hilarious. Finally, we get the Mad Max routine with Triple H in his sleek, you know, badass looking rod, and he comes out and everything. Michael Cole kills the moment by saying, how cool is that? If everything I've heard on social media, he kind of killed the moment. And so then we have our, oh, by the way, Batista also trips at his entrance. He trips in the middle rope getting into the ring. So we're off to a terrific start. Bang up, John. This match was so boring. And it was, I just don't know what, it's like, this is a match, and I don't know what I was expecting. because Batista hasn't wrestled a match in 5 years, and Triple H he's okay, but this was a match that I think clearly was designed to hide weaknesses, but they didn't even do a very good job of that. They were just fighting, kind of falling all over each other. One point, Triple H produces a monkey wrench and does like a hand thing, and this is like early in the match too. This is something that could have waited for later in the match, and they do it in the first maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So there's tools involved. There's the monkey wrench. There's needle nose pliers. Triple H rips the nose ring out of Batista's nose. It doesn't bleed, but it's still Batista's facial expressions as it's coming for his face. It was pretty funny. As the match goes longer, the fans lose more and more interest. It is a dead, quiet crowd for the bulk of this match. It's really sad. What finally I think wakes the crowd up is when Triple H hits a spine buster on Batista. That actually gets the crowd to pop. At one point, we get a double down after a spike DDT on the stairs. Ric Flair shows up. Ric Flair and Batista are jaw-jacking, and Batista has a sledgehammer, but Triple H also has a sledgehammer, jumps up the stairs, like big Superman sledgehammer shot to the dome, pedigree. Triple H wins and finally gets his win back against Batista, which I don't think was necessary. I kind of hoped that Batista would win just to get that final exclamation point and justify Triple H, maybe not wrestling anymore. I'm going to give this one star out of 4. This is just a match that, it could have been worse, but it was not much better than that. It was a pretty rough slog to get through. It's just too bad because I don't think Triple H, last year's match he had at WrestleMania in the tag was good with Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle and all that. But I feel like a lot of his singles matches lately at WrestleMania have missed the mark considerably. They always go long. They're supposed to be these drawn-out epics, but they seem to be placed at times when the fans don't care or it fails to deliver. We saw it with Sting. We saw it with Roman Reigns, and we're seeing it here as well in New Jersey. So yeah, Batista said on social media after the fact he's retiring from the sports entertainment world on his own terms, which is commendable, I guess. I just wish that this match were a bit better than what it was. It's the retirement match: Kurt Angle versus Baron Corbin Blue, and there are no swerves, there are no audibles. John Cena doesn't come swooping in to save the day. We just get Baron Corbin versus Kurt Angle. There you go, wrestling world. It's an okay match, and Angle gets his suplexes in, Baron gets his heat in. At one point, Angle hits the Angle slam, but Baron kicks out. Some more Germans. Kurt goes for a moonsault, which I was kind of hoping he would try and bust out in this one. Sure enough, he goes for it. He misses. Baron hits the end of days, and he wins the match. I give it 1.5 stars out of 4. It's too bad that, for fans of Kurt Angle, who is admittedly one of the greatest of all time, there's no disputing that. But for him to go out against Baron Corbin, some people would say it doesn't live up to what a retirement match for Angle should be. And I agree with that. However, for Angle to put over Baron Corbin, I think is great of him. I think that, Baron, I don't know how much it's going to help Baron at this point because he is he's such an uninteresting character. I hope they do something with him to capitalize on this. That's a bit different. But, it was what it was. I think it was an okay match. Again, not one not the quality you want to see at WrestleMania. That's how it goes. Angle, after the match, says he wants the fans to chant, "You suck," one last time at him, which is sweet, I guess. I've never understood the "You suck" chant. I know it's supposed to be respect, but I don't know, it's weird to me. But anyway, 1.5 stars is what I give the match, like I said. And there we go. Kurt, he says he's retired for good, but we'll see. In the semi-main event, Bobby Lashley defends the IC title against the Demon, Finn Balor. So the Demon finally makes his first WrestleMania appearance. It's grand. It's a great entrance. Bobby gets some heat early on. Actually, Finn gets some heat early on, but Bobby is able to get his stuff in as well. Some big vertical suplexes from the outside apron into the ring. And the ferocity and the intensity with which Lashley hit the suplexes was kind of impressive because he almost loses his balance. It's almost an uncontrolled suplex. But the fact he does 2 of them in a row, almost the same, makes you think it's by design. But it just looks so like, man, he just wants to lift this motherfucker up. And I think it's a very powerful move for Lashley. They try and do some stuff on the outside, but Finn catches him with a sling blade. More stuff in the ring. Actually, and Lashley hits Finn with a spear, but there's a kick out. That surprised me because I think the spear is one of his finishers. So for Finn to kick out of it, but it's the Demon. That's why he's able to do it. So eventually, Finn hits a power bomb on this big guy Lashley. Just gets him right up, slams down the power bomb. Coup de grace. Demon Finn wins the match, and Finn is once again your Intercontinental Champion. I didn't see much difference between Demon Finn and Lashley versus regular Finn and Lashley, which I know is a common complaint people have brought up before, and I think it still kind of holds true here. Great to see Finn win on the big stage as the Demon. But yeah, again, this is a match that didn't have to be in WrestleMania. In your main event, it's the winner-take-all triple threat match for the women's championships as SmackDown champion Charlotte and Raw champion Ronda Rousey take on plucky old Becky Lynch, the man. We get a callback to Flair's Great American Bash entrance when Charlotte comes flying in on a helicopter. That was pretty cool. I mean, you could tell it was pre-taped, but it's still a very just cool thing they did there with the intro. This match was very, I don't know how to describe it. It was very intense, very physical. These three women really gave off the impression they wanted to hurt each other. Sometimes, mistakenly so. There were just some time in this matchup where it's like, man, these girls are just working too fast, and it's causing some sloppy stuff. Not a whole lot of outright botches, but there was just a lot of, okay, let's calm down, slow down, pace yourself. At one point, Ronda has both of their arms over the rope, and they drop her, and she almost lands on her head. That was a really scary bump. We get a few double power bombs in a row by Charlotte and Becky onto Ronda. We get a big Spanish fly off the top by Charlotte at one point, and then later on, Charlotte's got Ronda in the figure 8, and Becky with the big leg drop off the top to break that hold up. A table makes its way to the ring, but then Ronda gets out of the way, saying tables are for bitches. Charlotte then later sets the table up in the corner, but she's the one who ends up eating the table, and the table didn't break all the way, which I thought was very disappointing. That I wanted to see the table do a full break there. I could hear people in the crowd, why'd the table not break? So Ronda tries to hit the Piper's Pit onto Becky, but she keeps going with it, and this is where some controversy happens, because Ronda hits the mat, and her shoulders come up right away after the referee's already hit 1. She puts them back down, 2, 3, and Becky wins the match, but they fuck up the finish. So that is a real bittersweet moment. It seems like a match that was not the ending. If it was the ending, they screwed it up. It would have been nice if they did some kind of, called some audible to basically restart it and get the spot to look good. Because that was not a clean victory. And if anything, it gives Ronda an out, and it can give an excuse. If she's gone, it gives her an excuse to come back in and do business. So it is bittersweet that Becky wins and has this very historic thing, capping off several months of what has at times been frustrating build for fans to make it to the mountaintop. She has, I don't know if it's unified or not, but she has won both of the women's championships to end the show. I give it 2.5 stars out of 4. It's the most I think I can give it, because there were some times where, God, you guys got to slow down. I think the excitement of the match, some of the stuff they did do in the match was entertaining. The history of Becky winning and the significance of Becky winning that match was really great. But yeah, there were just some issues with that match, and of course the messed up finish didn't do it any favors. My final grade for WrestleMania 35 in MetLife, more like Wet Life Stadium, Waka Waka, is A-. There was so much good stuff about this show. I think the things that people are complaining about this show are some of the most minute things you could ask for. The length obviously is an issue. It's something I think the company needs to address, especially if you're going to put it in a stadium that has a history of terrible transit problems. But that being said, the show started hot and pretty much had every kind of happy feel-good moment. It was such a face-heavy show, and I think it was one of those years where finally fans get what they want, and the right people win the matches, and you get these feel-good moments. You get Seth beating Brock. You get Kofi beating Daniel Bryan. You get Becky beating Ronda and Charlotte and winning on the grandest stage of them all. 3 for 3. I don't know if anyone expected all 3 of the main babyface storylines to end in the fairy tale ending. But son of a bitch, it happened, and if that happens, I don't think you can complain about anything else, because there's some matches that weren't that great, but in the grand scheme of things, I think just on the whole, it was such overwhelmingly positive WrestleMania that it's really hard to ignore that. It's just I think the significance of this show, I hope it doesn't go underrated or undermentioned, because this is a show that, again, I felt great. There was not one point in the show where I thought, oh man, I need to leave, I gotta go home. It wasn't until the ride home that things took a turn, but before that, the show itself just left people around me and myself just feeling happy. We were happy about that show, and I think at the end of the day, if you have a happy, feel-good WrestleMania in these trying times, That's all I can really ask for. Let me know what you thought about WrestleMania in the comment section below. Give it a letter grade in the upper right hand corner of your screen. I'm gonna go catch a subway back to the airport, fly home in several planes, get back to Reno at close to midnight, and pass out. Bye!